Welcome to the CSR Universe's Leaders Talk segment. So, with the increasing focus on sustainable business practices, along with a spurt in clean and renewable energy solutions to combat the challenges of climate crisis, especially post-pandemic, has led to the growing need for green jobs. Many industries such as agriculture, urban farming, automobile, hospitality, tourism, and among many others, are witnessing a greater transition towards a green economy, consequently increasing the need for a green task force. Now, incidentally, India's commitment to net zero by 2070 has given this space a boost where we have the potential and we are expected to churn out millions of green job opportunities by 2070. However, further impetus and streamlining of this space will be achieved only when there is a strong human resource capital and skill development practices for the evolving green jobs. Hence, to understand more and deliberate on the current trends and the need for corporates, especially to skill and upskill existing talent to take up green roles in these organizations, we have our esteemed guest, Mr. Shantanu Rooj, founder and chief executive officer, TeamLease EdTech, which is one of India's leading B2B education solutions provider, to share his valuable insights on the strategies that are needed to develop a robust green ecosystem and workforce. A hearty welcome to you, sir. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, Ruchika, for having me here.
So, sir, to begin with, we would like to first and foremost know what exactly are green jobs and how crucial have they become in building a sustainable economy. So, if you could please elucidate and elaborate on the current trends of this domain.
Yeah, so Ruchika, let me take a step back in that case. So there is a growing awareness that the world needs to turn green again, right? So
Right.
there has been several such social media posts says that today, if you look at the Earth from external sources, it doesn't look too green anymore, right? Because
Right.
of pollution, because of all the damages that human beings has caused to this world.
Absolutely.
There's a growing awareness and consciousness amongst people that if this human generation has to survive in the long term, we have to ensure the world restores its original vitality.
Right, right.
And that is where the concept of creating green jobs started out, saying that, and that ultimately stems from the fact that we need to create the world needs to become stable for the future generations, right? It's important for us to become good ancestors for our following generations, and hence to ensure that we restore some of the damages that we have caused to the world. Sure. There are several initiatives which are working in this particular space. First and the foremost amongst that comes to mind is to help come out of this fossil fuel energy and start making the world dependent on renewable energy, because that causes lesser pollution, it causes lesser stress on Mother Earth, right? So there is a worldwide impetus of going back to renewables, be it solar, be it wind, be it biomass energy. All of these are a clear momentum that we are all seeing. We are seeing efforts which are which are being made for controlling the damages of climate change, or making sure that human beings are being able to adapt themselves to the climate change, which is inevitable. Ultimately, it's around building a sustainable future for ourselves and a sustainable earth for ourselves, right? So how do we become more energy efficient? How do we make sure that we are more dependent on renewables rather than on fossil fuels? How do we make sure that the world is more environment friendly so that it's sustainable?
Right.
So as we make efforts towards that, and we create industries which are aligned to this particular mission, all jobs which are aligned to these sectors are called green jobs. Right? Okay. So if you go to solar energy segment and you see the different type of jobs which are evolving in that particular space, most of the jobs will be called green jobs because they are adding to India's or the world's ability to make the world a greener space, right? So it's a worldwide momentum. India has woken up to this, and interestingly, the current government has set very aggressive targets and goals for us. Yes. And that's interesting because we are also seeing a lot of initiatives being taken by the government in this particular space. So in my mind, that's what I mean by green jobs today.
Okay. So that's why we, in fact, the central government had launched the Skill Council for Green Jobs way back in 2015. However, if you talk about the awareness and the mindset, what exactly are the current trends in terms of building an awareness around the green jobs, and which industries are most popular that cater to these green jobs, or which are hiring in terms of green jobs?
So, let me address it two different ways. One is, if you see the current generation of youngsters today, I have a very strong belief that there's an extremely high awareness and sensitivity
Yes.
towards making the world a more sustainable.
Yes.
Today, my daughter, who is about 15-year-old, curses me every time I pick up a plastic bag from one of the shopping stores.
Yes.
Right? So I'm seeing this awareness not only in my daughter, but everywhere. So the next generation is more awareness, and they want to contribute their best towards making world a better place, controlling climate change, controlling pollution, making having better ways to do what, not to waste water there some places, renewable energies, ensuring that pollution are less, all of these things, e-waste management, this is all consciousness which is being built, right? So today's youth have a preference towards job, which not only makes them earn their livings, but also make a great impact on the world. And that's an excellent change that we are witnessing across the world, and it's great for the country, right? So in times to come, if you have to extrapolate this into the future, we believe that industries and companies who would start thinking and aligning job roles towards making the world a greener place are the ones who will succeed in the long term.
Right.
So there is an increasing momentum in almost all industries to ensure that either they create green jobs or convert some of their existing job role to green jobs. And I can give you many examples in this particular space. And for example, let's say any industry, let's say housing industry, right? New job roles which are coming up, the likes of green architects, people who are going to ensure that there are landscape designers, there are civil engineers and urban planners who are creating smart cities, whose specialization is to ensure that you make a more sustainable city. So you can recycle your own waste, you can manage your own, you can manage groundwater well, you're causing lesser pollution, you have solar power there, wind power doing, you have created a separate grid, you're not only taking from the grid, but you're also contributing the grid. So there are all this type of job roles which have started coming up, right? So let's say, for example, manufacturing. There are different type of jobs which are coming up. For example, packaging today. It's moving off from plastic-based packaging to paper-based packaging, which creates new job roles there in this particular case, designing them, building material, packaging this, all of this stuff, right? In the technology sector, for example, you'll see environment scientists today. You'll see climate scientists which are coming up there. There are people who are environment technicians, are the type of job roles that you're seeing there. You'll see job roles related to transportation, for example, where they are doing electric vehicle designs and manufacturing, maintenance of electric vehicles. All of this becoming new job roles. And if you ask me any specific sector, I should be able to give you examples where it's working. Energy sector is looking at people who can install solar rooftop solar grids, people who can create solar stoves, for example, or solar water heaters, for example, install them, maintain them. All of these are jobs which are ultimately tuned towards making world a better place, and hence these are all green jobs. So all industries are moving there in that direction. And government of India has made very aggressive targets for themselves, right? So I was listening to our Prime Minister, who said that by 2030 is just about 8 years away from today, 50% of India's energy will be all coming from renewables. Right. Today, Europe, almost 70% of the energy in Europe is coming from renewables today. The dependence on fossil fuel is so less, whereas in India, we almost import 97% of the oil from outside, right? Most of our electricity is being generated by burning coal. This is not sustainable, but the good part is the government is taking enough interest and putting money, resources, motivation, creating those teams and giving them aggressive targets, monitoring them to ensure that those goals are being managed.
Right. So what is the role of TeamLease over here when it comes to, expediting the efforts of the government as well as the other stakeholders?
Yeah.
What are your initiatives?
So multiple things. So we are enablers in this particular space, right? So um, one of the ingredients to this success is when you have a large pool of trained people who are sensitized on the requirement of green jobs and are trained to handle some of these job roles which are going to emerge in the future. Now, we at TeamLease EdTech, for example, our basic business is to work with Indian universities and help them create new age training programs, help them deliver that training program to a large mass of students, right? So we currently work with close to about 55 large Indian universities. In that space, we are the largest service provider in the country today. And so we are working with multiple universities that help them create programs which can create such skill trained workforce. Either, for example, you could have an environmental management paper which is embedded inside a Bachelor of Arts program, which ensures that the students get a special certification on environment management.
Okay.
Right? So there are different type of skill sets that you will require as you emerge in this particular space. And the skill sets could be hard skills, which are like technical skills, right? How to manufacture solar grids, for example. How do you repair a solar stove? These are technical skills. And you also need soft skills, as any other industry needs. You need transferable skills. You need people who are good at problem solving, people who are critical thinking, people who can have teamwork. So you need to ensure that the workforce that is coming out in the market are sensitized towards the need of this and also are competent and capable to take up this job. So we work with universities to co-create these programs and ultimately enroll students, train them. And when you're training today, we also help ensure that the universities are being able to use a hybrid mode of training. For example, let's say you take up a BSc in automotive mechatronics. And in that program, we want to teach you how to develop electric vehicles.
Okay.
So the model that we have helped universities develop is where the theory part of the program is being taught by the university to an online medium, but the student is placed in a electric vehicle company as a trainee for 3 years time.
Okay.
You're learning practically hands-on every day. You're learning the theory from the university, hands-on skills from the employer. At the end of 3 years time, you graduate with not only the knowledge, but also with work experience. Right? You are immediately, so you become a very attractive proposition for any company who's setting up a electric vehicle manufacturing unit, because you're not only educated, but also skilled. Right? So we are helping universities embed, collaborate with industry to create this type of programs, which are contextual, which are relevant, and which are important for the industry, which will create a large amount of trained workforce for the people, create internships for the positions where the students can be sent, create apprenticeships which can be embedded into degree programs, and also create short-term certification programs which the students of other streams can take as for better awareness, building their additional skill sets. Because tomorrow you go to any job role tomorrow, if you have that green stint around you, it's going to always give you an extra edge too.
Right. True. So you're talking about higher educational institutions and you prepare specific modules and curriculum for the students. But I think the awareness level and sensitivity or sensitization should come at even at the school level. So are you also collaborating at that level to, build awareness among the students?
So at TeamLease EdTech, we are a higher education training company. So we do not work with schools, but there is enough amount of work being done at the school level also. So if you see the National New Education Policy 2020, which was unleashed, it talks about embedding all of these modules in the school curriculum. Now, there is a concept of vocationalization of education, where these type of vocational skills are being added into school curriculum right from class 6th onwards. So students are being taught about environment management. They're taught about electric vehicles. They're taught about wind energy. They talk about sustainability. They talk about water table management. So these are, I think, the conditioning of the mind is starting from the schools itself now, which is a great way to prepare our future workforce.
Right. True. So when we talk about the corporates, which areas under CSR especially have the potential to generate more green jobs? What can corporates, should they prefer implementation partners and agents who are looking at creating green job opportunities while they implement their CSR projects?
Yeah. So yes. So obviously there's increased awareness amongst lots of funding agencies, and we are also seeing so many fund donors who are taking this as a cause now. So, but each one of them are modeling their CSR focus towards certain thematic areas, and somebody focuses around, for example, e-waste management, and wants to ensure there is projects which is there. There are funds which wants to donate funds to agencies who can possibly create rural skilling for green jobs, right? So because after the pandemic, there was a lot of loss of livelihood of people in the rural areas. They suffered the more than what happened in the urban areas. So there is an increasing focus amongst many CSR organizations to create or help rural youth to come out of this poverty or the skill poverty and build skill sets which are sustainable in the long term, right? So there are also, I've seen CSR funds who are working towards involving women workforce while they're creating green jobs. So how do you ensure that you skill a list of women candidates now who can, for example, go ahead and repair solar stoves?
Right.
So I think there is a lot of work which is happening in that case, be it e-waste management, be it plastic management. How do you ensure that you make the world a better workplace? But a large amount of it is happening towards skilling people and ensuring that you can create micro jobs, you can create sustainable localized jobs inside those rural places. And right, so microgrids management, rooftop solar implementation, maintenance of grids, maintenance of equipments are the areas that I've seen a lot of CSR funds are also being mobilized, and that's a excellent direction.
Okay, great. So what I can gather from your insights is that I'm getting an idea that most of these jobs, green jobs, cater to the blue collared job seekers. So, when we talk about blue collared technicians, like we were talking about this solar panels. So how are you going about, upskilling or giving them, training them as, skill sets to these people who do not actually go to higher education institutes and are, based out of rural areas? So is there any kind of approach towards them also?
So Ruchika, first of all, and I just want to be clear that green jobs are both for the blue collar, gray collar, as well as for the white collar.
White collar.
They're all of these. But when we talk about green jobs, the volume is at the bottom of the pyramid. And hence my focus has been towards the blue collar, because that's where the largest number of jobs will come. Because you cannot have, when you're constructing a smart city, for example, you may have only about 20 architects.
Right.
But you will have possibly thousands of workers at the bottom who are going to do the construction work towards the grid, right? So the volume is there.
Yes.
Now, training these people is definitely a very different ballgame than training students in a university. So if you see, there are multiple initiatives being started by the Sector Skill Council for green jobs.
Yes.
There are. So the one is there is increased efforts to tie up with training service providers who focus on training these workers. That's one.
Okay.
There is a target being set up by 2030. This sector will have at least 7,500 to 10,000 qualified certified trainers who will train only for these type of jobs now.
Okay.
There's a target of Government of India who says that by 2030, they will have at least 750 training centers, physical training centers established, which will only train people who are coming for jobs which are related to this green job roles. So there's a constant effort going on. There's something you can't change overnight, but I'm seeing a fundamental shift in the mindset. And there's a continuous effort being done there. And there are goals being set saying that by 2030, so today, for example, let's say in India, there's just slightly more than about 1 lakh people employed in green jobs today, currently. But the Government of India says that in the next 8 years' time, we'll have close to 30 lakh green jobs available. It's about 30-fold increase in the next 8 years. This is an ambitious number. So it shows the directional movement. That's government efforts, but there's also a lot of private enterprises who are taking initiatives in this particular space now. And I think that those numbers will be much, much higher. So trainings are happening both for the blue collars employers are doing it at their own level. They have training centers, they're conducting internships, they're conducting apprenticeships, they're taking a non-qualified, unqualified trainers, and they're creating training sessions inside where companies like TeamLease EdTech are employed to train those people in the workplaces, apart from the formal training centers that the Sector Skill Council is running through the NSDC mode, through its own certification framework. I think efforts are happening on both the places.
Great. I think so. Collaboration among stakeholders is the key to, expedite the efforts in this domain.
Absolutely.
So, please elaborate on the skill development and training initiatives that you are currently running, and if you can share an example to the other our viewers and the CSR stakeholders, how can they incorporate the same in their working?
Yeah, so our efforts have been largely towards the renewable energy sector. That's one of the sub-segments of creating green jobs, right? We have run many different training programs. And let me give an example. For example, in a place called Darbhanga in Bihar, very remote small town in Bihar, right? Which is known for lower literacy levels and abject poverty of people. Those areas, we have conducted training batches, close to about 60 people in one batch, and trained them towards creating rooftop independent solar power grids. How you can make that. So now all the 60 people who are getting trained in one particular batch, 100% of them have found employment at the end. And we have done multiple batches. And this is just an example, right? Of the 60 people that we trained in the first batch, 9 of them went ahead and became small micro entrepreneurs. So they said that we are going to become dealers in this particular space. Now we understand the technology. So I will deploy some money. I will buy equipment, assemble this thing, and employ a few of my friends and start a business which implements solar in rooftops in those village towns.
That's amazing.
Somebody started a solar water heater agency. So we are seeing people who are becoming micro entrepreneurs in those areas and people who are taking employment with larger companies. We did one workshop there, which was almost a 3 weeks training program, which was towards creating paper-based packaging systems. Okay. So we saw that in Bihar, there's a lot of use of plastic. And it's that we need to create something like that. And we trained village youth about how to create paper bags and make them paper bags manufacturing otherwise is easy, but then how do you make sure that it has the resilience of plastic bag, doesn't tear so well, and it is water resistant, and so that lot of retail shops will use them, right? So once they got trained, we are seeing that almost 30 women in that village today are manufacturing those paper bags and supplying to some of these larger retail shops there, and created a livelihood for them. Those micro initiatives at village levels, I think, are going to change India.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I'm sure you must have faced some challenges also in this sector, especially when we talk about in terms of disparity in the level of understanding across various, not just the end user or the job seeker, but across companies also. And plus, there is almost a non-existent availability of courses in this field. So what challenges do you think are there right now, and how do you actually, what kind of solutions can be, looked at?
Yeah. So 2 parts to the question, Ruchika, what you said is the challenges that we face today. And second is that non-availability of enough number of courses in this.
Yes.
So I think the first one is true, actually, because it's an emerging space. There is lesser awareness amongst people. And you will still find people who do not want to become early adopters because it takes slightly more effort in this case, right? For example, let's say when you go to a Kirana shop and you try to sell him a plastic bag packet or a paper bag packet, he finds plastic bag easier because it's cheaper.
Absolutely.
And it's cheaper, easy store and all the stuff. But then a little bit of counseling to them. He starts seeing the benefit of it. So it's early stages. So any revolution, Ruchika, whenever it comes in this world, starts showing results first on the fringes. You'll start seeing early adopters, people who are taking them and making models out of them. Then it starts affecting the core. So we are seeing a lot of stuff happening at the fringes at this time, and that gives us confidence that it's not far away when the core will start getting impacted. You walk into any of the Mumbai malls, for example, nobody, I can bet you, not a single shopkeeper will give you a plastic bag. Everybody will give you a paper bag, right? So it wasn't the scenario 2 years back. Almost 30% gave me paper bags, 70% still gave me plastic bags. But today, so things start changing at the fringes and then starts happening in the core. I think the future looks very bright. From a course perspective, there are many courses available. The only thing is that possibly we do not call them green jobs courses, and hence people do not know. For example, a degree in environmental science is a course which prepares students for similar jobs, right? So a degree in biochemistry, for example, will prepare kids for how do you do waste management tomorrow? How do you do biogas preparation tomorrow? Right? So how do you do water table management tomorrow if you do environment? So I think there are, for example, there are in a lot of engineering colleges, they teach you how to, electrical vehicle engineering is becoming a mainstream course.
Right, it is.
So there are courses being introduced today because even the academia needs to develop competencies in these things to be able to create a course, ensure that faculty is trained enough, and they create laboratories and stuff like that to be able to sponsor these courses. But I think that changes are happening. Most universities have started introducing this.
Okay. So is there also any challenge when it comes to, the job seekers? How lucrative is the salary structure in these jobs? Is there any kind of, motivation for them to take a green job because it's going to pay them well?
So yes, first of all, that the youngsters today are one, I see that they're conscious about the environment, number one. Number two, if you look at it, not job as a job, but job as a step towards career making, it would make a lot of sense for you to have competencies which can make you fit for a job which is also green. You may not, I'm not too sure whether anybody makes sure that taking green job becomes their life mission. But then I have enough amount of competencies that I'm building that in case there's a job which has an offering and it's interesting to me, I qualify for those jobs. Right? So I should understand the sensitivity towards environment, sensitivity to energy, sensitivity to waste management, water management. All of these things is something that I need to understand. Right? Those are good skill sets to have. Because if you see in times to come, as the world is becoming more uncertain, employers are looking at employees who are multi-skilled, who can be put to various types of jobs. Only one specialization is going away. Even the degrees are becoming multidisciplinary today. So it means that having a skill sets inside you, developing that competency is always going to help in the long term. Slowly jobs, there is an attractiveness of jobs which are green, but our forecast is another few decades from here on, we'll have the number of green jobs will outnumber the number of traditional non-green jobs.
Okay, great. So one of the most important questions which you also wanted to discuss was how to map, measure, and certify India's efforts to skill, reskill, and upskill a workforce for the evolving green job ecosystem. What can corporates do to upskill their existing workforce?
Yeah, so to upskill their workforce for green jobs is no different from skilling them otherwise for any different skills. It's just a set of skill sets. Whatever you're doing for them to develop skill sets around Java or a .NET program is similarly you have to develop skill sets around this, depending on what type of skilled employees do you need for your particular industry, right? So the strategies are not going to be different. But okay, so the Government of India, through the Sector Skill Council, has developed a set of competencies and a framework for certifications. So that's available on the NSDC's website, right? You can have level 1 certification, level 2 certification, go up to level 10 certifications.
Right.
Universities have got a similar certification, diplomas, postgraduate diplomas, and degrees available. So there are enough number of standards which are created. Employers are using some of this training infrastructure, either independent trainers, organization like TeamLease EdTech, or could be engaging with some of the government training agencies to train their skill force or retrain them or upskill them in some of these emerging technologies, depending on what is relevant to my particular industry. For example, if I'm a manufacturing industry, I want to know how to become more energy efficient.
Right.
So because that is going to be not only beneficial to the climate, but it's also going to be cut down my energy cost at the end. I want to know how to ensure that my effluents are better treated before they're discharged, because government is going to put a heavy penalty if you discharge your thing in some river, right? So effluent management is becoming a skill set. And so employers realize that either because of their own business interest to remain relevant in the future, and also for regulatory purposes, you need to ensure that you are becoming more environment friendly, because government otherwise will shut you down. So so they are continuously putting efforts towards reskilling their employees of the existing one and upskilling them to ensure that they can not only take care of this, but also take benefit of the emerging technologies in this particular space and make sure that the employer is more competitive.
Absolutely.
Right. So if for example, let's say I'm a huge guzzler of energy, if I could create my own energy using solar, it makes so much sense to me. One is I'm contributing to the environment, but also I'm also cost efficient in the longer term. And the ROI for any solar installation has been computed many times by so many case studies today. So there's a clear ROI on that. So I think the employers are taking efforts towards this and using some of these frameworks created by the Sector Skill Council and the universities to certify their employees.
Okay, great. So what is the way forward? What is the roadmap for the future for TeamLease EdTech?
So from TeamLease as a group, we believe that we are both a company and a cause. We believe that we are building a business by doing good to the people.
Right.
Our mission is about putting India to work or making India employable. And we believe that if you want to put people to work, you have to ensure that they are skilled and upskilled and reskilled and new skilled, to ensure that they are skilled for the jobs which are going to emerge in the horizon. So our training programs, or the degree programs with our partner universities, or the short-term certification, the workshop that we do, have a component of ensuring that they are environment sustainable and they're environment friendly, right? So we are ensuring that we build this awareness among students. We are ensuring that we are creating a talented workforce which is skilled and trained to take up this case, creating micro entrepreneurs at the rural places, ensuring that the women folk are brought back to work and doing interesting work in this particular space, and people can develop their own self livelihoods in this case. I think that's what has been our efforts towards this particular noble cause.
So really praiseworthy work that you're doing over there. And we from at the CSR Universe would like to extend our best wishes so that you have a very successful future in this, because all of us actually want a very healthy, green, robust green ecosystem, not just in the country, but that's something which can, lead the world by example. And you are making inroads into that. And thank you so much for doing such commendable work.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for the valuable insights. I'm sure it's been a great learning experience for me, and many people who are not even aware of green jobs will now know, in depth. They will have an in-depth awareness and knowledge because of the insights that you've shared with us. Thank you so much for your time, sir, and thank you so much for giving us this opportunity once.
Thank you, Ruchika. I really enjoyed our discussion today. Thank you for having me.
Likewise. Thank you so much.